What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're taking a look at the Denver Broncos. We're post-free agency for the most part. Trades and signings are still trickling in, stuff like that. But for the most part, teams are shifting their focus to the NFL draft, which takes place in about 2 weeks' time tomorrow. Pretty exciting times. I got to blow through these episodes and get you guys my mock draft. So stay tuned for that. It'll be out in about a week. I'm hoping to have it out on the 22nd of April, so you have some time to get prepared for the draft. But like I said, today we're going to take a look at these Denver Broncos. As you can see, we got the team needs up here and then the draft capital that the Broncos have heading into the draft. Obviously, and it starts at quarterback. That was a big trade, bringing in, the quarterback of the present and future. How many years are you going to get out of Russell Wilson? You're hoping at least 5. Is what I'm thinking. If you're a Broncos fan, you got to be hoping that you get past those draft picks that you sent over in the trade. Let's talk about that trade. So it was Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, a first round pick this year, which is 9th overall, first round pick next year, a second this year, second next year, and a 5th this year. You get that 4th round pick, 116 back from the Seahawks, but that was a lot. That's a lot. People, if you're just looking at the draft picks, you might not think it's a crazy amount because it's an okay, amount. But those roster players that they sent over are very, very valuable. Drew Lock is at a minimum a quality backup quarterback and might turn out to be their future, franchise quarterback. We'll see how that all works out in Seattle, but Noah Fant is a very quality tight end. We saw that with these Broncos for the past 3 seasons. And then Shelby Harris as well. He's another quality interior rusher that excelled with this team. So that's a very, very healthy package that they sent to the Seahawks. But if the Broncos make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, it's all worth it and nobody cares, no harm, no foul. So it's all about winning championships, and if that gets it done, then it is what it is. It's money well spent type of thing. So second, the last pick, last pick in the second round, there's no compensatory picks in the second. 64th overall is their highest draft pick for this coming draft. So let's talk about let's blow through the roster here, the depth chart, and then we'll talk about the needs as we go. So Russell Wilson is their guy at quarterback. Obviously, he is the guy. Hopefully, he stays healthy all year because Brett Rippon and Josh Johnson, they aren't exactly guys that you'd feel super comfortable, handing over the keys to this offense to. I think if anything should happen to Russell Wilson, they're going to run the ball, 30 to 40 times a game. But, realistically, if you watch this channel for a long time, a couple things. If you watch this channel for a long time, I've always been a huge supporter of Russell Wilson. I'm a big fan. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I love how he plays the game. I love his intelligence. I love his leadership. And he's just a very, very solid quarterback who could push for an MVP bid this year, depending on how this team does and how his stats look, which should, go hand in hand. Another thing I've been saying about these Broncos for a lot of years, this is the 3rd year that I've done these videos, and this is finally the year that I don't have to say it. But what I've been saying is this is a Super Bowl roster without a quarterback. This is a Super Bowl caliber roster, but they don't have a quarterback. If they get a quarterback, they might just win a Super Bowl. So here they are. Mind you, Shelby Harris is a big loss, in my opinion, to this defense, and that's what requires some attention in the draft, but we'll get there. So, move over to the running backs position. Javonte Williams, I'm a huge, massive fan of. I think that he's absolutely going to take off this year. He had 43 catches in a part-time role, and it's not like Melvin Gordon is not a good pass catcher, that's for sure. Look through his career stats, he's always been a quality pass catcher out of the backfield, but 43 in a timeshare with 900 rushing yards, man, without Melvin Gordon in the fold here, like fantasy-wise, I have him on all of my teams, and he's absolutely going to be an asset this year. I think that with this offensive line, he's going to be scary, scary good. But I do have it as a need, and I think they're going to have to add a guy. I do like Mike Boone, and maybe he does get that opportunity to be the backup running back on this team, but they're still going to have to add a guy, a number 3, number 4 guy, something like that. But they have a ton of 4th, 5th round picks. They can, even 6th round pick, because it's not a huge need, but I think they're going to have to add a guy somewhere that, they can have on the roster this year. Andrew Beck, sure, fullback. They do run a little bit, I think, but not a ton. To be honest, I didn't look into it. I do like fullbacks, but he's not in my top 5 in the league, if I'm being honest. But I'm sure he's quality enough. But that we might see this offense shift a little bit with Russell Wilson coming in. Get him more actual weapons with a reasonable, probably the best. Not even reasonable. This is a decent offensive line. Probably the best offensive line that he's ever had in his career. So we'll get there in a second as well. Move to tight end. Obviously, they traded Noah Fant, like I said, who was very good for this team. And to be honest, they replaced him. I don't know if they meant to do this. I'm confident that they did not. But Albert Okwuegbunam came in the 4th round of the 2020 draft. And, a lot of people were saying this guy's a carbon copy of Noah Fant. I can't disagree with that. He's an absolute athletic freak. And if you watched a lot of Broncos games last year, and I did because of Javonte Williams, but I did watch a lot of Broncos games, and he got a lot of action. He really did in key spots. So I like what he can do, and he did show out a little bit. And obviously, the team feels confident in him, and I can't blame him if I'm being honest. So I'm okay with that. I don't think there's really a drop-off. And they could add a guy in the draft, but I'm really not concerned. There is a lot of quality tight end depth in this year's draft, so they could go ahead and grab a guy late, again, 4th, 5th round, 6th round, something like that, just to have another guy on the roster. I do think Eric Tomlinson makes this team as the kind of blocking tight end, but and Albert Okwuegbunam is going to be that guy, but I think they could add a body in the draft. It's not a huge concern. Let's move over to the offensive line. Very quality. They brought in Billy Turner and Tom Compton this offseason. I think that those were 2 fantastic pickups. They've been searching for a right tackle. They were hoping Juwan James is going to be that guy. Didn't end up being that guy. I can't remember who was here last year off the top of my head, but I think he got hurt as well. And they've just been trying to piece it together. Bringing in Billy Turner is a fantastic get. I think they got him at a discount, in my opinion. He played very well with the Packers last year. Tom Compton has been good when called upon. He can definitely get the job done in a pinch. And then those guys can work as swing tackles. Not that you're worried about Garrett Bowles missing any games, because, I think he's a very, very, very kind of underrated left tackle. He's kind of just a name in the crowd that kind of gets buried by some of the other, very quality left tackles. But he's more than fine. But if there is an injury there, I think you have those swing tackles on the roster now. Graham Glasgow, very good guard. Lloyd Cushenberry, very good center. Dalton Reisner, another very good guard. Plus you got Quinn Miners, who I really, really liked, last year's draft. He's a quality swing depth piece. And then Netane Muti is also there. So they have the depth. I do have O-line as a need, but, again, if you watch this channel a lot, I have offensive line as a need on pretty much every single team. Just because I think it's that important to protect your quarterback. That's how you win in the NFL. Protect your quarterback, get after the opponents. That's how you win in the NFL right now. So, it's a need, but it's not pressing. Again, 4th, 5th round, add a body, maybe a left tackle that's going to be your left tackle of the future type of thing, or just the swing tackle of the future. Because I think Compton and Turner are both on 1-year deals. Maybe Turner got a 2-year deal. I can't remember, but I'm all right with them adding a left tackle / right tackle of the future sort of thing. Move up to the playmakers at wide receiver. This is a very good group now. There's a lot of, there's a lot of different wide receivers, realistically, is what we're looking at, which is very good. You can hurt a lot of teams in a lot of different ways. I am personally always have been a big believer in Tim Patrick. I love what he can do. I really do. He's a big body, go up and get it type of guy. And he just pops off anytime. Like I said, I watched a fair amount of Broncos, games last year, and I've had Tim Patrick on my fantasy team, so I've watched him specifically. He just always pops off. He makes plays when you need him to make plays. I really like Tim Patrick. He was a fantastic surprise for them. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I never particularly liked on this team. I didn't like it when he got drafted here. I said that when I did my mock draft or my draft recap for the 2020 draft. I did not like the landing spot here, but now that they have Russell Wilson here, I like it a lot more with that quarterback under center specifically. So I think, he could be that guy. There's been a lot of narrative, in the Twitterverse circles about Russell Wilson can only sustain 2 wide receivers, and they excel. There's 2,000-yard receivers, and then everybody else is just a forgotten kind of, aspect of the offense. But I really don't think that that's going to be the case here, considering the offense that he was in Seattle and how different it will be here. I'm not too concerned about that. I think these 3 guys can, excel. I'm not saying they're all going to be 1,000-yard receivers. None of them were last year. Courtland Sutton's your quality route runner possession. You could call him an X receiver, I suppose, but if I'm being honest, I'm probably looking more towards Tim Patrick as my, alpha X wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy, probably my slot guy. KJ Hamler's a fantastic burner down the field. And then Seth Williams is kind of an underrated guy as well. Travis Fulgham, Tyree Cleveland. I think they're fine at wide receiver. So I do not have it as a need whatsoever right there. And I don't expect that they add a playmaking wide receiver in the draft unless somebody falls to them in the 3rd round, something like that. We'll move over to the defensive side of the ball, which is kind of where I want to focus, more of this conversation, because they've lost a little bit. Obviously Von Miller's gone. That's a big loss. And then Shelby Harris as well. So they're losing that ability to get after the quarterback. You're going to say, hey, Cody, they got Bradley Chubb there. He's fantastic. Yeah, you might think that, and we'll get there in a second, but let's just talk through it here. So let's start at the defensive line. DJ Jones comes in. I really, really like him. That was a great get. Deshaun Williams played fairly well for this team last year. He's fine. Draymond Jones, he's absolutely fine. He played well for this team last year as well. Mike Purcell's still there. I'm not sure if he will end up being there at the start of the season. We'll see. He's getting a little up there in age. And then McTelvin Agim is still there as well, who, was drafted 3rd round by this team a couple years ago. I do think that they need to potentially bring in a body, especially if they don't plan on having Mike Purcell on this team. If he does end up making this team and being a part of the roster, then it's much less of a need. And you're fine with those kind of 5 guys, Jonathan Harris, I guess, as well. Then you're fine with those guys that you have on the defensive line. They're, DJ Jones can get after the quarterback a little bit, but they need some help on the edge. Hence why I have edge rusher as my number 1 need. So Bradley Chubb, let's get into it. Obviously, he had a phenomenal rookie year, 12.5 sacks in his rookie season, but for his career, in 65 possible games that he could play in, he's only played in 41. And he's had 20.5 sacks in his career. If you take out that rookie season that he had, it's really lackluster of a career, to be honest. So, this is the time that he needs to take over and be that guy and be that, difference maker on defense that they drafted him to be. And he was at one point in his career. It's not like I'm saying he can't do it. I'm just saying he has to do it now. Now that Von Miller's gone, he's the guy. So we'll see how that takes shape. Jonathan Cooper had a decent year as a backup kind of filler guy. Malik Reed has had success for this team, even though I think he's a little bit undersized for the position, but he's made it work and he's had success. So I can't argue with him, being a pass rusher at the NFL level. It's just that, I do think that he's a little undersized, but he's done it. So it is what it is. Randy Gregory, he's another guy that, he comes in and he had success back with the Cowboys. But he's never played a full season in his career. He's never played a full season, and he's missed 2 since he came into the league, missed 2 full seasons for various reasons that it doesn't really, we don't need to get into it, but for various reasons, and we all know why if you want to go look into it. So they need a guy. They need a difference maker, a big difference maker, and that might be Bradley Chubb. But at this point, I'm not, sinking my potential Super Bowl, my Super Bowl aspirations. I'm not hinging that on Bradley Chubb. I'm just not. So it kind of is what it is. And, if you disagree, and I can't exactly blame you for disagreeing with me, but we'll see how it all shakes out at the end of the day. We'll move to the linebacker position. This is a spot where I think they might address with their first pick in the second round there with the 64th pick. Josie Jewell, Alex Singletary, Justin Sternad. None of these guys, maybe Sternad might be that guy, but none of these guys are super quality, leaders, play every down, good in pass coverage, good everywhere. I'm to be honest, the Broncos haven't had that guy in a while. And I'm glad that they've put our lads here has put Baron Browning as a pass rusher, because I think that that's where he's going to excel, as being a pass rusher in this defense, not as, an inside linebacker. So again, I think that that's somewhere that they might address in the draft. If a guy that I have in mind is Chad Muma from Wyoming. If Chad Muma's there at 64, I'm taking him. I'm plugging him right into my defense here and having him be my defensive play caller, my starter, play 3 downs guy. That's what I'm doing personally. We'll keep moving it back. Patrick Surtain was their first round pick last year. He had a really good rookie season, and there's no reason to think he won't improve. Bryce Callahan and Kyle Fuller are both gone right now, but they're both free agents, so you might see one or both come back. Ronald Darby's just fine on this team. K'Wan Williams is absolutely just fine, and I think Michael Ojemudia, I think he can be a quality depth guy. I'm not sure I want to rely on him to be one of my starting corners quite yet. We'll see what he does this year, and maybe the following season he can take over. Ronald Darby is getting a little up there. But I right now I think that he's just fine as, one of those, a roster guy, a roster depth guy. So I do have it as a need. I probably shouldn't have it that high. I probably should have linebacker above corner, but it is what it is. The safeties, both these safeties led this team in tackles last year. That's okay, but you need someone to be that center fielder and take some things away in the passing game, and have your strong safety in the box as your tackling machine type of guy, right? So it's okay, but that's another reason why I want that linebacker to come in and kind of take the pressure off those safeties a little bit. And ipso facto helps out the corners and helps out in the pass coverage stuff. So that's what I do. If Chad Muma's there at 64, that's who I'm taking. Some of the other, positions of need, and I think backup quarterback might be a thing. If a guy like Jack Cohn is there, like I said, maybe in the 4th, 5th round, something like that. If a guy like Jack Cohn is there, I take him, because I think he can be a quality backup in the NFL right now. So that's a guy that I would look at. And I do think that they do need to add a running back. I know they have interest in a guy named Isaiah Pacheco. That's a guy that I look for, I think he would be okay as a number 3 / backup, a backup running back to spell, and potentially, if there is an injury, he's a guy that can do a few different things. He can catch the ball. He ran a good 40. He's a little, He didn't really produce a ton in college, but I know there's a lot of teams that don't mind him, and this team specifically does like Pacheco. So we'll see what happens. But there you go. I think that's all I got for you. That's your breakdown for the Denver Broncos for the 2022 season, heading into the 2022 NFL draft. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video.